Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to the podcast. And I am really thrilled, and I don't say that just lightly, but I am thrilled to have my dear friend Uriah Guilford back on the podcast. Welcome, Uriah.
So good to talk to you, Gordon.
Yes, yes, and Uriah and Uriah is truly one of my best friends, and I know we talk pretty much every week, and we've done just lots of fun things with each other over the years, and traveling different places and doing different things. But for folks that might not know you, Uriah, like I do, tell folks a little more about yourself and how you've landed where you've landed.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, we have really had some good times, some good memories, and some good plans for the future. So that's awesome.
Mhm. Good.
Yes. So who is Uriah? I am a retired therapist, and I am an almost retired group practice owner, and I'm also the head nerd here at Productive Therapist. And I think I'm a person who loves to help people, and I love technology, and I love bringing those two things together. So I've had a private practice and then a group practice for a very long time. And then about 8 years ago, I started Productive Therapist to solve my own problem of needing part-time admin support. And it was sort of a side hustle. And then it kind of expanded over the years to become my main business and what I love doing the most. So that is what I'm all about. So I've kind of shifted from therapy to consulting and helping therapists to sort of build out their private practices and use technology and AI to help do that. And I'm having so much fun, honestly. So that
Yeah, yeah.
that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had the privilege of kind of having the scene behind the curtain as Uriah has developed all the things that he's developed. He's one of the most creative people I know, and so I know today one of the things that we wanted to talk about is, and I've gotten really kind of passionate about it too, is how how AI is not only changing things, but how to use it, particularly what you've developed around having an AI assistant, so to speak, or AI intake processes and all of that kind of thing. So, yeah. So, where shall we begin, as Esther Perel says?
That is a good question. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's been fun seeing you get more and more interested in AI too and use it for various different projects. And there is this moment of excitement, isn't there, when you realize
Hmm.
this is not just a nifty tool that you can kind of use to replace Google or do, I don't know, make funny images of you and your family, which I do a lot of,
Hmm.
honestly, but it can actually really help you with major important projects. And whether those are like passion projects or it's your day-to-day work. And so I've seen, like, I think that light went on for me for sure. And I was like, this is amazing. And then I've seen that happen
Hmm.
with you too. It's pretty fun, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And that there's I think the one tool that most people are familiar with is Chat GPT, but I know another tool that you've introduced me to, which has just blown my mind, is Claude AI, CLAUDE.ai. And just how it's really geared more towards kind of business stuff, I think. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I would say ChatGPT and Claude are have a lot of similar capabilities. They're both AI tools that are LLMs or large language models, but each one has its own strengths and weaknesses, I would say. But I found Claude to be incredibly useful for business, like you said, and we can talk about that a little bit. And then also really good for coding and building web apps and building visualizations of data, whether it's financial data or other kind of metrics from the practice. So yeah, I've really enjoyed that. I actually go back and forth and I use both for different things.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people
Yeah.
who are really into using AI do that. They use a number of tools.
All
Um,
right.
but the truth is you can get a lot done with ChatGPT and you can get a lot done with Claude if you just use one or the other, right? So
Right.
that's
Right.
that's kind of nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that it is. It really is cool, and it's amazing how you that at least for me as I'm doing stuff. It's just I think, oh, I could put that into Chat GPT, and just get this whole new
Right.
thing where before I would have spent hours doing stuff and working on things. So I mean, it's just really a
Yeah.
great time saver.
That's one of the biggest mindset shifts I think that everybody can experience when you go from thinking about it every once in a while, like, oh yeah, I should get some help from ChatGPT with that email or something like that, to it being becoming your default. Not to replace your critical thinking or your creative process necessarily,
Right.
but to really take the idea that you have or the problem that you're trying to solve and kind of have an AI first approach. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, yeah. So what one of the things that you've done is just taken all that technology and really applied it to your business, the productive practice, and being able to start using AI for the whole intake process. Because I
Right.
know, but most people don't really think about it, but that's the first contact you have with any client, and it's so important to have that all of that working well.
It really is. Yeah. And for people who might not know, Productive Therapist is a company that helps therapists streamline and operationalize their intake process. So
Hmm.
everything from that first contact to the first session, and then the customer or the client support after that too. So that's kind of
Right.
our area of specialty.
Hmm.
And applying AI to that is relatively new because what we provide, our core service is human virtual intake coordinators. So we will
Hmm.
handle, all the incoming emails, all the incoming phone calls, match clients with the right therapist, and then handle the insurance and all the back end stuff, right? And
Right.
that's an incredible service that people seem to really enjoy. I use it myself. So like I said, I
Hmm.
built it for myself.
Hmm.
And up until recently, like applying technology to the intake process was mostly about using the features of your EHR better, right? There
Hmm.
wasn't a lot
Hmm.
of automation or sort of higher level technology that we could apply to it in a secure, HIPAA compliant manner. But now that has changed. And the thing that I'm
Hmm.
most excited about, you've heard me talk about this probably too much, but the thing
No, no.
that I'm most excited about is the capability of having an AI receptionist that's trained on your practice answer your phone 24/7, 365, and be able to do a couple important things. Answer all the questions that every client asks. Do you take my insurance? Do you have availability on, these days? And do you help people with these kinds of challenges? Answer those questions, collect some info, and then even be able to take an action like booking a consult with an intake coordinator or even with a therapist directly. And that's a brand new thing. It's relatively new for most of us, and I've been working on building those and installing
Hmm.
them in people's practices, and it's really really fun.
Yeah, in many ways, it's kind of like an interactive voice. What am I trying to say? Voicemail kind of thing. I guess that's I'm aging myself by calling it that, but I mean in other words that somebody actually gets a response in real time to questions that they have.
Right. So it's fully conversational AI agent specifically.
Right.
And, we've had voicemail, what do you call those? Voicemail trees,
Yeah.
for the
Uh-huh.
longest time. And then
Hmm.
you've had those experiences where you call AT&T or Verizon to like get customer support and they navigate you through this whole process. It's been a nightmare. They're never
Hmm.
good. They're always
Hmm.
frustrating, right? And then you have to
Right.
kind of like shout at it and say, "Speak to a human. I need a
Yeah.
representative."
Right. Right.
And the amazing thing is that with the introduction of AI to these kinds of platforms, it's gotten incredibly useful and actually practically useful. So you can have a back and forth conversation with the AI agent, and it's interesting because on the back end, it doesn't just say the script that you've dialed in, but it can actually sort of not be creative with it, but it can have a back and forth flowing conversation instead of just like a robotic voice that's just repeating what somebody has written. So it
Hmm.
feels more natural,
Hmm.
and the voices are actually getting better and better. And so
Hmm.
it's a better experience, honestly. And some people say, like, I don't know how I feel about my clients talking to AI. I don't know how they'll feel about it. I don't think I like it. Nobody wants to talk to AI. And to that, I would say, absolutely. Nobody is like wakes up in the morning and thinks, you know what I want to do? Have a long conversation with an AI agent today.
Hmm. Right. Right.
Nobody does that,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But my
Right.
hypothesis is that everyone is trying to solve a problem at some point in their day. And if an AI tool or an AI agent helps you accomplish your goal and solve your problem, you're going to be perfectly fine with it. So if I'm
Right.
looking for a therapist and I call, 5 or 10 practices and I get 9 voicemails, but one of them picks up and it's an AI receptionist, and I'm able to book a call with someone who's going to connect me with the therapist, I think people are going to be happy about that. We'll see,
Right.
but that's my
Yeah.
hypothesis.
Right. Right. So for those that are curious, you want to walk us through kind of how your process works at Productive Therapists and what people, yeah, the different ways that it can be used.
Yeah, thanks. So we are the amazing thing here is that we're combining the AI receptionists with these human intake coordinators who are amazing. We have an amazing US based team. But a lot of practices out there have their own sort of in-house intake coordinators, which is fantastic. So
Mhm.
that's what I think is most powerful is combining the two, right? So we do that. We have a service where we'll give you an AI receptionist and we'll give you a human intake coordinator, and they sort of work together. Or we can provide therapists with an AI receptionist that just supports them. Let's say it's a solo practice, right? Maybe, you just want someone to answer your phone and book calls on your calendar so you can talk to potential clients. Great. We can do that too.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the way it's working. And we're working out the details in terms of how does the human oversee the AI and make sure that it's doing what it needs to do, and
Mhm.
make sure we're not losing the human touch too, because the AI is not there to take the place of the intake coordinator or take the place of the therapist. We can talk about
Mhm.
that if you want, but that's not the goal
Mhm.
here. The goal is to just get that person, like, basically narrow the gap between first contact and first session. That's
Yeah.
what we're trying to do.
Right. Right. Because I think one of the important things to think about in just doing the whole intake process is that, if you think about your potential clients, they probably had to kind of build up to wanting to call and make an appointment, and that there's some underlying anxiety around that. And
Right.
and so if they're calling and just getting voicemail after voicemail, um, the typical pattern, I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, Uriah, is if they don't get through to somebody, a human, with when they call, they're on to the next, now onto the next phone call.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. Like, everyone who's reaching out for a therapist is doing so in a moment of need, right? A moment of
Mhm.
maybe crisis, even. And it's like a spot where pain meets courage, and then they finally pick up
Mhm.
the phone or they finally fill out a web form, whatever they're doing. And the truth is that the first therapist to respond often gets the client. In
Mhm.
most cases, that's the way it
Mhm.
works. I sometimes share this story about a couple of years ago when I was hanging something above my toilet in my bathroom, and I'm like a little bit of a home DIYer. I'm a
Mhm.
little handy, but not too much. So I'm hanging this thing above my toilet, and all of a sudden, I'm drilling a screw in there to hang I think it was a mirror, and water starts coming out of the drywall, seeping out of the drywall, and I was like, oh no, this is bad. And sure enough, there
Yeah.
was a water pipe, a copper water pipe that went right there, and I nailed it right in the middle. So
Oh my
I
gosh.
ended up having to cut a hole in the drywall and figure out what was going on. And I don't do plumbing, right? I don't do
Uh-huh.
electrical. I don't do plumbing. So I immediately got on the phone, or actually, I got on my phone, and I think I ended up on Yelp, actually. Maybe it was Google or Yelp, and I found
Mhm.
plumbers. I called 3 plumbers. One, no answer. Two, no answer. The third one I called, the plumber actually answered the phone. And I was like, thank goodness. So I
Uh-huh.
talked to this guy, and he was really nice. He was actually a one-man shop, and he ended up coming that day and patching my pipe and all that. And it was amazingly helpful. But the point there, of course, is that I had a very pressing need, and
Right.
I reached out to a couple different businesses, and the one that responded first, I was happy to pay them whatever it was, $200 or $300 to fix the
Right.
problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool. So, what would a person, I guess one of the things that maybe people are kind of leery of is they're concerned about the experience of potential clients, and
Right.
just interacting with a bot, for lack of a better term,
Hmm.
to call it. So what have you figured out with that? And by the way, I've listened to, I was kind of helped Uriah beta test a few of the things that he was doing, and I was just amazed at what it can do. But anyway, you want
Yeah.
to tell folks about that? Yeah, what
It's
they can
surprisingly good. Yeah.
expect.
So just
Hmm.
to kind of connect the dots, because I know people are probably listening to this and trying to figure out how this works. So the AI receptionist is built and delivered through a software platform that is HIPAA compliant, that we, sign a BAA with folks. And so in that software platform, you as the practice owner or one of your team members can literally see every single conversation that happens. And for most of these accounts that we're setting up, we are turning on call recording. So I think that's important. So you can do just a transcript of the call, or you can do an actual audio recording as well as transcript. So you can go in and listen to those, read the transcript, just make sure that the AI receptionist is responding the correct way. And then
Hmm.
there's a pre-training process where we do a bunch of testing, make sure it's, doing what we want it to do. And then as it's operating, there's some oversight that's necessary. And then if there's something that needs to be changed or tweaked, we can go in and change the prompt, change the FAQs, change the training essentially, and fix it. But I'll tell you, I've had several of my friends, you included, do some testing and ask all kinds of questions, really try to get it to go off the rails. That's the terminology that they often use,
Hmm.
and get it to make a mistake, give wrong information, be inappropriate, and it just doesn't. And the reason for that is that in this software platform, in this context, it has very strict guardrails, right? So like if you go to
Hmm.
ChatGPT, and people have heard the stories about AI, giving really bad advice and sometimes detrimentally so. So
Hmm.
this AI receptionist has super like firm guardrails. And so every question I asked it, everything from like, hey, I think I have ADHD. Can you diagnose me? All the way to, you sound amazing. Are you single? Something like that, right?
Uh-huh.
It handled all those like professionally. Like it would apply empathy. Like it sounds like you're going through a hard time. Let me get you connected with a good therapist, and it would redirect them to the right path. So I've
Hmm.
been very impressed so far. I haven't seen or heard or experienced anything that's been concerning. It's always something to pay attention to. Obviously, this is new
Hmm.
technology, and in a healthcare or behavioral health context, we want to make sure that it's like 100% good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would think too, with just the services you're offering, you've got the AI stuff, it's kind of the frontline thing, but then you've got virtual assistants that are real people
Right.
that back that up. You want to say more about that?
Yeah, definitely. I've, like I said, I created this business to support my group practice, and I've been actually
Hmm.
working with the same virtual assistant at Productive Therapist for 7 years. Tiffany's been with us for 7 years, which is amazing.
Hmm.
And she handles everything on the back end, every single email that comes in, every single voicemail. And now she's overseeing Sarah, who's our AI receptionist. So
Hmm.
Tiffany is
Hmm.
working together with Sarah, and that's the service that we provide, just to handle your entire intake process, as well
Hmm.
as back end sort of back office tasks that are important,
Yeah.
whether that's verifying insurance, fixing credit cards, making sure people pay their their whatever amount do they have for their services. It's
Right.
really, really helpful because, if you've probably heard this saying that like, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant.
Hmm.
And that's so
Hmm.
true. And a lot of us are doing too much and we desperately need to delegate, but it's hard to delegate and it's hard to find
Right.
people you trust to take over, especially something like intake, right? To take over something
Hmm.
that feels so personal and so important. But
Hmm.
there are really great people out there, including productive therapists and others that you can find too.
Right.
So that's definitely something I'm always talking to therapists about. Like, hey,
Sure.
let's see if we can help you avoid burnout. So let's not do all the things,
Yeah.
get some help.
Right, right. And that's one of, in the consulting that I do with people, that's usually one of the
Right.
first things that we talk about is, okay, what can we get off of your plate? Particularly those things that are just time consuming, that really don't create any direct income for you.
Right.
Those are things that you definitely need to outsource and not spend a lot of time trying to bootstrap and using up all your time doing.
Definitely. Yeah. The
Yeah.
way that most therapists make the most money is either by being in sessions with clients
Hmm.
or by working on their business and expanding it.
Right.
So intake is very, very, very important, but a lot of therapists don't need to be doing it, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's hard to let go of. And I understand
Yeah.
that. I went through that myself, when
Hmm.
I first delegated the intake process. And I mean, here's the thing. If I was to go back to being a solo practice today, I would 100% use an AI receptionist. I
Hmm.
would probably still do consult calls and I would have them booked with me directly. But on my, on my time, on my how I want it to happen. In other
Right.
words, not answering the phone all the time and being constantly available to
Hmm.
people. And then I would
Right.
also turn on self-scheduling in my EHR. Personally, I would, and then just
Hmm.
help people get used to, you know, using the AI receptionist, using the client portal, like try to automate as many of those things as possible. And then I can fully show up in session and be the best version of
Right.
myself
Yeah.
possible. That's what I would do, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Uriah, I know we've got to be aware of our time, but tell folks too. One of the other cool things that Uriah's got available is a directory of different services and consultants and all that sort of
Yes.
thing. Say a little bit about that.
That is a good segue from talking about delegating and getting help
Uh-huh.
to the productive
Yeah,
therapist directory.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm like a resource person and I like to connect folks with good resources, obviously productive therapists, but there's so many other great resources out there like practice of therapy
Hmm.
and others. And so I built this directory a couple of years ago and you can go check it out at productivetherapistdirectory.com. And it's really a business directory of folks that provide services to private practice therapists. And that's
Hmm.
bookkeepers. We're talking about web designers, virtual assistants. There's actually quite a few virtual assistant companies on there, as well as consultants. And it's a really great resource. So if you're looking for digital marketing support, any of those things, you can go and find a quality person, whether it's a freelancer or a company that provides those services. And yeah, I recommend it.
Yeah, 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 and that's a good thing. And I know too, yeah, Uriah's got a lot of other good little freebies and things that he offers by going to his website. And yeah, it's he's a good one to connect with and also get on his mailing list and that sort of thing because Uriah is always coming out with new things and new gadgets and new stuff that's just so cool. So yeah,
Thanks for the kind
so
words, Gordon. I always
yeah.
find fun, interesting things, and I like to share them, you know?
Yeah, that's great. Well, Uriah, tell folks again how they can get in touch with you and find out more.
Sure. All the info is at productivetherapist.com, and that's where you can find out about the AI receptionist as well as our virtual assistant services. And like Gordon said, get on the email list. I send one email a week. I try to keep it really, really practical and helpful. And I really enjoy doing that. And lately, it's been a lot about AI. So if you're curious about that, definitely tune in because I'm sharing all the fun stuff.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, thanks again, Uriah, for being on the podcast. And folks, you'll be hearing from Uriah tons more in the future, I'm sure.
Thanks, Gordon.